her ability to harness potential challenges and unleash them as sheer kinetic accomplishments makes Lisa the ideal coach, mentor, and speaker. It's my honor to bring her up. Come on, Lisa.
Standing back there in the back of the room and said, I'm going to do something a little different than what I usually do. I'm used to doing 80-hour weekends. And I thought, wow, you know, Kim is asking me to kind of do this life story in like 20 minutes. And I thought, wow, really? It's like, so not going to happen. And so I really took a moment and I talked to my daughter and I decided that I was going to give you something special that nobody else gets. Amen. Because even though, yes, every event that I give, every speeching, gosh, I'm getting teary. I'm always coming from the heart, although it's like a song that you know the lyrics to and you can sing it just by memory. And I'm used to doing that. And so tonight I thought, well, because I have such a limited time, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you something better. I'm going to give you me, just from the heart, however it comes out. And so first I'd like to thank God for giving me the gift of being able to have the faith to just give you myself without any reservations and without censoring anything that I want to say that comes to my heart. And I want to thank Kim very much for inviting me and having me here. You are such an amazing woman, and to meet you in person is remarkable. And to each and every one of you that's in the audience, I have to say this. I'm so grateful that you're here to support Kim and Claudia and Susie. You're awesome, my twin. And I want to thank you for showing up for life, but you know what? Everybody can do that, and you can do that by reading. What I want to do is I want to congratulate you for showing up for your dreams, because if you're here, you obviously have a dream. And I know this because I was sitting in your chair once. I was sitting in your chair once in a living room. I didn't speak English until I was 10 years old. I spoke Cherokee. I was supposed to have my uncle here tonight, which is, I usually have notes. That's why I don't have notes. When I learned to speak English, I saw this movie. It was a rerun. It was called Corvette Summer. And I thought, wow, that is just one bad to the bone car. I gotta have one of those. Now, this is a girl who grew up on dirt floors, and I don't know if you've seen them on Facebook, the pictures of my home when I was a little girl, and I had dirt floors, and like it was seriously like made of like straw, and it's like an adobe bed anyway. And so we finally had this television set, and I saw this movie called Corvette Summer. I had to have this car, and I had a cousin sitting with me, and she said, "Really? Are you serious? Like, with what money do you intend to do that?" And no kidding, in this order, keeping a reference point of the order that she said it in, she said, "Are you serious? No. You know what?" And she said, "You're like in some pipe dream or something, girlfriend, because the only thing that's ever going to happen is we're going to have kids, probably like 9, and then maybe if we're lucky, we're going to get married and get our butts beat every day by our husbands, whether we need it or not. And then, maybe if we're lucky, we might leave Tahlequah, but we'll probably never see the outside of Oklahoma. And then we're going to die here, and nobody's ever going to know who we are." And at that time, I didn't know what it was. But something in my psychology shifted, and I said, "Nope." 5 words. This is not my life. I don't know what it is, but I know this isn't it. Amazingly, thank you, Father, everything that I have ever wanted in my life, good, bad, or indifferent, He has given to me. By the time I was 16 years old, I had someone who was very proactive in raising me, who was the reason that I actually can speak English, because my family was convinced that this was just like wrong and very prejudiced and very closed-minded, and that's okay. You know, she didn't know better. And this same woman, by the way, had, you know, the strange thing is, and I don't know why I'm going to go here, but I am, everything that I've had to do, I've had to fight so hard for, to include just to show up in this world. And that's why I applaud every one of you for being here tonight, because I really see that fighter in all of you too. And when I say I had to fight here just to get here, my mother attempted to abort me 3 times. And if just one of you takes home something that you can use from what I said, then everything that I've ever gone through is worth it. My aunt that we were just referring to, I would always say, I love you. And I would always try to sit on her lap and hug her and hold her and love on her. And she would always say, get off me. Get off. Why are you doing that? Can you just get off me? And when I said I love you, I was about 13, so we're going to fast forward a little bit here. She said, I don't know why you keep saying that to me, because don't expect me to ever say it back, because I never even wanted kids, and I sure as hell didn't want you. The only reason you're under my roof is because you're my sister's daughter, so don't expect me to ever say it back. She kept that promise. She took that to her grave. She never said, I love you. And I still said I love her. And you know, it's kind of ironic because I was talking to James, who's sitting right here, the other day, telling him this story. And I said, you know, because he...
Tell him how your mother's sister ended up with you. I think you might need to clarify that. You thought you brought it out when you were 6 years old.
Oh, yes, well, my mom passed away when I was 8 years old, so that's how she ended up with me. Oh, and that was the other thing, too. Yeah, thank you very much. I learned very early on that I was very disposable because of the fact that, from the obvious, where she attempted to have 3 abortions, in addition to that, anytime I wasn't convenient, I was just dropped off with whoever they could find at the moment. And so I learned very early on that I was very disposable. That's okay. And now I know where you were going with that, and I really appreciate that. Thank you. Because one day we were having a conversation just a few days ago, and we were talking about, you know, some different people in my life who tend to not be very nice, and I'm putting that mildly. and he said, why do you put up with that? Why do you have such toxic people, and how can you help them? Because I was helping somebody that was being very toxic. And he said, how can you continue to help them? I don't understand that. And I said, well, because I forgive them. Every time, before they even do it, because I know they're going to do it, and so I forgive them. And I can forgive them because I find that gratitude is the mother of all emotions that we have. And if we have that, we've got forgiveness. And if we've got forgiveness, forgiveness will set you free. And that's where the success is. And going back to the story of my aunt who swore she would never say she loved me and meant it, as much as she pushed me off of her, and as much as she wouldn't say it, and as many of the things that she said that were so not nice, you know, the ironic thing about that is because when we were having this conversation, he said, I don't understand how anybody can treat anybody like that. That just doesn't, what is wrong with people? And I said, you know, it's not her fault, because I really do believe that this is the way she was raised, and this is the way that her mother was raised, and so on, and so on, and so on. So she only did what she knew. She didn't know any better. Because strangely enough, when... And so, when we were having this conversation, I had to defend her, and I said, you don't understand. And I said, you know, I remember when my mother passed away, and one of the teachers that she was going to send me to the principal's office because we were singing Greensleeves, and it made me cry because it made me think of my mom. And yes, I know my mother loved me. There's nothing that anybody could do to tell me that she didn't because of the actions. You know, and this is a great expression. I like this expression. I can't hear what you're saying because your actions are speaking so loudly. And the reason I can say that about my aunt, it can work in reverse, and this is why. My aunt, who always said, I don't want you. You're worthless. This was the same woman when I got sent to the principal's office. She went down there and she said, you will not lay a hand on that girl. I can beat her upside one and down the other, but you will never touch her. And so for somebody who swore she didn't love me, it's kind of amazing how she was always there to protect me. And I just somehow can't believe that you can do that unless you love somebody. Fast forward. My daughter's amazing. It's my daughter's idea to do the basket thing that you were talking about. I have to say thank you to my daughter, even though she's not here. Right now, each one of you does have a gift inside of you. And I have no idea why you're here, but I can promise you the reason that you're here, you don't even realize. Why you're here is so much deeper than the reason that you think you're here. When you dig deeper inside, there's going to be something more than what you originally thought. And the only way that you're going to find out what that is, you're not going to get there by sitting there. So for a minute, I want you to indulge me. Can everybody please stand up for a second? And then I want each one of you to turn around and check your seats, like check the underneath of your seats and see what you find, if there's anything underneath your seat. And if you're sitting next to a seat that was empty, maybe look underneath that one. And tell me if you find something.
My money. I found my money.
Oh, I see it. What's your name? Marion. Open your envelope. $5. So, the moral to that little game is, in order to get successful, you have to get off your seat. You'd be amazed what's under there. So, I'm so blessed to be, and it's funny because we're in this room together, and I'm so moved by just what I've heard from Sam, Susan, and Claudia. I'm just moved because I find myself revisiting some of those moments. But when I'm there in that moment, I find gratitude because I sit there and I just think, you know, whatever this is at this moment that's going on, it really doesn't matter. Because God has such a beautiful design for us if we just let it happen. And every one of you are so beautiful inside and talented and unique. And I can say that of all the roads traveled and of all the paths cut, there are no right or wrong ones. And it doesn't matter what you've done, ever, because everybody has a past. And everything that you've ever done in your entire life up to this point has created the amazing person that you are right now and the magnificent fabric of a human being that you are yet to become that you don't even know about yet. And I've traveled many, many roads. Some of them have been unorthodox. Are you going to follow the road that everyone else is on and stay where you're at and not be in charge of where you're headed? Or are you going to cut your own path and design your own life and be where you really do want to be? Because it's up to you. Could everybody please put their hand like this? Put both of your hands in front of your face. Now, all the time I hear people saying, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that and this guy's driving me crazy and that girl's just going to wear me out. Well, beyond those hands, what can you control? But you can control everything from where? From the hands back. You teach people how to treat you. I learned that really early. And you can be the author of your own life if you just don't let anyone else hold that pen. And you can choose to make a different decision every day that you wake up. Life is a decision. You can choose to be happy, you can choose to be miserable, you can choose to do nothing. There's always at least 3 choices. Personally, I choose to be happy. And in order to do that, I have to start with forgiving. And forgiving isn't for the other person, because they're going to be there no matter what. Forgiving is a gift that you give to yourself. And when you can do that, the gratitude really shows up so big. And when the gratitude shows up, that's when you really start to live. That's when your dreams come alive. And that's where everything that you ever wanted starts to come to fruition. And it happens so seamlessly and so easy that you wonder, how? How did this happen? Because I've been struggling and fighting, and I've been pulling my eyelashes out, trying to get there. Or if you're a guy, I've been pulling my hair out, trying to get there. It's when you do that that everything just magically appears in front of you. And I can tell you right now that that's a fact, because of this beautiful woman sitting right here. We met on Facebook. And I would have never met any one of you. And to me, before I flew out, I prayed for just one person to show up. And every single one of you are that one person to me. And you matter to me. And you matter to you. And you never know when you're going to matter to the person that's about to take their own life. Because there are so many times where I've had somebody reach out to me and say, you know what? I just saw something on your posting. I had no idea what I was going to do, or if I was going to go and make it until tomorrow. And I would have never known that if somebody didn't write it. And so I can promise you, if you haven't heard it, it's only because somebody hasn't vocalized it to you, because somewhere out there you have touched somebody so with such a magnitude that you have no idea whose life you saved, but I know you did. I know you did. Before I got on stage today, I have this young lady, Jessica, and she's magnificent. She's a gift. And she's my gift. I met her on a bicycle ride. And for those, I don't know how many of you know me from Facebook or not. And if those of you that do know that I ride a bicycle quite a lot. And so I met this girl when I was on a break stop. And she's 24 now, but when you talk to her, she'll tell you the same thing. She doesn't realize that she's told you 5 or 6 times already. But this girl has moved me so much that she is where I find my greatest inspirations at times, because before I came downstairs, I had no idea exactly how this was going to look, considering that I was supposed to be traveling with a companion that didn't show up. And that's okay, because they didn't want to take him out of his comfort zone, and everything works to its perfection. The beauty of imperfection is perfection. And so I called her, and she's so wonderful. She says, Hi! When she answered the phone, and it just brightened my day. And she was just so amazing, and so I just had to...
Tell about Jessica.
Yes, oh, yeah, well, she had, her grandfather had tuberculosis. She was normal when she was, just like you and I. And when she was 3 years old, her grandfather gave her tuberculosis, and they didn't diagnose it for like 3 years, and so it's affected her everywhere. She can't stand up by herself or really do anything by herself. And I gotta tell you, for as much as she cannot do by herself, she does 1,000,000-fold more because of all of the lives that she touches. And I really wish that you can meet Jessica. She's on my page. I really wish you could meet her because she's so amazing. You've seen her, I'm sure, yeah. She's adorable. And anyway, I've got minutes. So I had to acknowledge her because she's such a ball of energy, and she's so alive. And you know, the ones, I believe, in my opinion, the ones that have special needs, man, they see you for who you really are. They know. And every time I talk to her, I cry like a baby because I recognize that everything I've been through, she sees something amazing in me that I don't even see sometimes. Okay, I'll stop that. She just loves with nothing required. She doesn't have any conditions to her life. And I'll keep this real short since I only have probably 2 minutes now. When I met Jessica on that bicycle ride, I wasn't even going to stop. I was going to keep going because I was almost done with the ride, and I really did not want to be the last one in camp. It was a long ride. And so I stopped to eat, and she said, "Guess what?" And nobody was answering her, so after about 20 of those, I asked if I could cut in line, and I said, "What?" And she said, "That's Dad." And she's pointing back, and I said, "Well, he seems pretty magnificent." And to cut to the chase of the story, she said, "I get to make sandwiches today." Okay, for those of you who don't know much about my habits, I don't drink anything other than water, probably to the point that it annoys people. I do like Starbucks refreshers. I discovered that recently. Those are pretty good. So I have a limited menu of things that I'll have. Well, this little girl made me fried, which I'm pretty certain fried food should be illegal. It's just awful. It's terrible. I mean, it tastes great, but it's terrible for you. I'm pretty convinced it should be illegal. She made me a fried bologna, which is another food that I'm pretty certain should be illegal, sandwich with cheddar cheese, which I do like cheddar cheese. That's okay. It's not too bad for you. And then she served me Cheetos, which is like full of MSGs, and I know this. And going back to the I don't drink anything but water and fresh juices, a Coca-Cola. Guess who had a fried bologna sandwich with cheddar cheese and Coca-Cola that day? I thought I would see her the next year. I didn't know that free will does not go through Oklahoma every year at that particular spot. They pick a different route. So I didn't see her again, and I felt so awful because I felt like she was going to think I lied to her because I thought she was going to remember. I didn't know that she didn't remember things. And this was in 2008. And I'm sorry because I'm sure I'm running just a slightly bit over, but I got to finish this one because she's amazing. Thank you for indulging me, and thank you for indulging me on Jessica. 2008, that's when I saw her. Never saw her again. I was in the nail salon. August 2012. I was supposed to go earlier in the day to the nail salon, but I was having stuff done at my house and couldn't leave. So I was late for my nail appointment, and I went later. And there was a girl sitting in a chair getting her nails done, and a mom standing behind her, and I thought, oh, how wonderful, that's so nice. Because I could tell that she was challenged, the girl in the chair, but I couldn't see her because she was ahead of me. And the mom started to get her nails done, and the girl stood up, and I thought, wow, she really reminds me, just her mannerisms remind me of Jess. And she sits down, and she says, hi, guess what? And I thought, oh, you've got to be kidding me. She sounds just like her. She doesn't just look like her, she sounds like her. But I had never met the mom, so I didn't know. And then the mom turns around and she said, sweetie, she doesn't call her Jessica, sweetie, and she said, you might not want to just, you know, sometimes when people come to the salon, they just want to relax and enjoy themselves. And I interrupted her and I said, oh, no, she's fine. And I looked at Jessica, not certain that it was her, not even knowing that it was her. And I said, oh, no, she's fine. And I said, that's okay. And I looked at Jessica and I said, you know what? And I said, you know, and as women, we know this. And I said, you know, the craziest thing when I come to the nail salon, this is like I love someone to talk to, and I usually come alone, and so you're actually doing me a favor, because I wanted her to feel comfortable. Jessica, thanks you for sharing me. She said so on the phone. He can tell you, I was just talking to her. Because when I called her, she said, we're supposed to go to lunch. And I said, I know. And she said, you have time to talk to me? And I said, I do, because I'm not stepping on that stage without talking to you. And you know what she said that really moved me? And then I'll turn this microphone over. I love you, Lisa! And then I knew I was going to be right. So thank you for allowing me to share Jessica with you. She's truly an angel. But the reason I'm sharing her with you like this is because there's someone out there that you've touched just like this. And maybe you just haven't had the opportunity to reunite with them like I've been so blessed to do with Jessica. So, and that being said, if I had one thing that I want you to take away from what I've had to say tonight, because I know I've been all over the charts with my stories, is today, right now, in this moment, you knew that you had 1 minute to live. Just 1 minute to live. Would you be able to say, I've really lived? Would you be able to say, I've done everything, or at least I've made an effort to do everything that I wanted to do on that list? And write it down. If there's something that you haven't done, you need to write it down and do it. Because I got to tell you, for 40 years of my life, I've lived in fear. I hadn't been on a roller coaster because everything had the end result of, and then you'll die. I hadn't been on a roller coaster, anything, whatever. Now I've been on a roller coaster, I've been on a trapeze, and I got to tell you, if it's ever, and I thank you, Father, thank God that it didn't take a wake-up call like cancer or something or whatever. Thank God it didn't take a wake-up call for me to realize it, but when you're ready and it's your time, don't you just want to go sliding into home saying, I've used and abused this body the best I can and I'm ready. Because that's what you want to do. So that's the one thing I want you to take away. Right there. Thank you.
I have the honor now to talk a little bit about the books here. So I want to talk a little bit about Claudia Cooley's book. It's called From Dud to Stud, and professional success, life achievement, and image expert Claudia Cooley shares the insights, tools, and strategies she's used for 3 decades to transform duds into studs and empower them to achieve their goals for ease and fun. With additional wisdom gathered from highly successful men across multiple industries, this book promises to give you what you need to accelerate your success and live a rich life. Next on the list here, Sexy, Fit, and Fat at Any Age, by Susie Egelsee. Susie is a beauty expert with over 15 years in health and beauty and industry. In the health and beauty industry. She's an author, speaker, publisher, columnist, copywriter, and branding specialist. She has been a featured speaker at numerous workshops with topics such as health, beauty, sex appeal, confidence building, writing, and publishing. Having worked at some of the world's most well-known and top-rated beauty companies, she's motivated thousands of women to look and feel their best, to embrace their sex appeal, to live a healthy lifestyle. Last one, Getting Your Life to 10 Plus by Kim Summers Egelsee. Kim Summers Egelsee is an award-winning inspirational speaker, author, TV host, life coach, hypnotherapist, and NLP practitioner. She specializes in helping people get to their life an extraordinary 10 plus level while embracing their trust and their truest selves. She also just became won an award on Amazon, best-selling author on Amazon. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about the books, and you read the books and you can tell from people what they are, but I know these women, so I want to share a little bit about them. Now Claudia, what can I say about Claudia? You're an inspiration to all of us here. Claudia is an educator, and she worked until she retired, and now she works even more. She works harder in her retirement than she did before. Well, maybe not harder, but you work just as hard. And more. But Claudia is the type of person that shines up the room, and you just can't help to just love her infectious personality. I've known you for about 2-3 years now, and it does feel like a long time. And I'm honored to be able to talk a little bit about your book, and I was honored that you asked me to be one of the people that you interviewed. So I hope you made me into a stud. And Susie again is my business partner, sitting right there, the best business partner ever. And Susie is her sister-in-law, and we've known each other for just a couple of years, actually at Danielle's birthday. But again, I feel like I've known you all my life, and we have a good relationship, and we can talk about our goals and listen to a little bit of rock music, have some wine, and she tells me she loves Rick Springfield. But I remember over a glass of wine and listening to Rick Springfield, Jesse's Girl, I think it was. But she said she had an idea of a book. And it's awesome that it's coming to fruition, so I'm honored to be here. And there's first before I get to my wife, I actually have to complain and tell my mom that I actually lied to her. I have to tell you, Mom, remember I was in college, and it was December 19, 1995, and I told you I was at the library, and I studied all night. I almost went to the library, but I just took a beeline to this place called Senor Frog. In Redondo Beach, but the good news is that's where I met Kim. And the rest is history, but the book is called Getting Your Life to a 10 Plus, and the way that came about, somebody played this game with Kim and said, real quick, rate your life, 1 to 10. She goes, 10. And he goes, wow, nobody's ever said that, without missing a beat. But more importantly, Kim is the angel of my life. And this book is to help you to improve your life and to live an extraordinary life. And I'm proof positive that being around Kim, she has made me a better man, and she does bring the best out of me. So knowing that this was your passion to write a book, and that it's here, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of everything that you've done, and I'm proud to be your husband. So, I'm going to start bragging about you guys, and come on, let's learn about you. Dr. Christiansen is going to interview these ladies. So we're going to learn a lot.
Hi. You're so generous. I love you. You're awesome. All of you. Okay. Well, we'll start with you, Kim. Okay.
Oh, we need some.
Oh.
Thank you. There we go.
Oh, good. Okay. So, what inspires you?
Well, it's interesting because I actually, can you hear me? Okay? Okay. First, I want to thank Susie, because Susie, if it wasn't for Susie, I wouldn't have my book. She copyrighted, edited, and published my book. She does that, and she's going to be starting workshops in the summer, helping people write their books and copyright, edit, and publish their books as well. So I appreciate. Wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. So. But I was going to say this when I introduced Chris, but I might as well tell the story now. I grew up, because of Joe, the owner of Park Regency, my dad and my family were introduced to watching Jim Rohn at a young age. And so at age 18, my dad said, we're going to go watch Jim Rohn. How many of you have heard of Jim Rohn? So many of you. He's very well known for training and mentoring Tony Robbins and Chris Widener back there, and many famous speakers, and he's just one of the greats that shared wisdom with the world to help them live a meaningful life. And so Jim Rohn was a big influence, and I studied personal development the last 21 years because of first seeing him. It motivated me. And about, I think it's been 9 years ago, that 12 Pillars was written. Am I right? 9 years ago? And 12 Pillars was a book that my husband and I would buy multiple copies of and give out to people just because. And that's such a great way to give back, is to buy books and give it to people, because you never know how it's going to change their life. And the beautiful thing about 12 Pillars by Chris Widener and Jim Rohn is that you could read it and get tips for people who aren't even into reading. Like somebody who said, I just read magazines, I don't like reading. You get them to read that book. You say, oh, it's easy. You can read it in 3 hours. You're going to get something out of it. You tell me what you get out of it. I promise you. Do me a favor.
I have to interject. She's telling the truth, because we were on the phone one of the first times that we were on the phone, and that's what she said. You got to get this book. You just got to.
Yep. Too much of people who don't feel happy enough, and I want every area of everyone's life to be a 10, and then once it gets to a 10, to be a 20. To be amazing. And so simply, I want to help people learn to be happier. And so I said, I'm going to write a book like 12 Pillars where people can pick it up and read it in 3 hours and give it to those people who don't usually read, as well as those people who love to read, and really get something out of it right away. Like, I'm just going to get tips right away out of it that I can use tomorrow and change my life for the better. And so that's what inspired me. So thank you, Chris.
Now, to you, what does it mean in your life to, like, if you had to say, this is why my life is a 10 plus, I want to know what those are.
Why is my life a 10 plus? Mm-hmm. My life is a 10 plus. I think, well, I feel happy in every area. My husband and I, we were talking the other day, and someone had asked the question for a seminar I was going to, list some problems. And I said, does this sound weird? I can't think of any. And he goes, I can't either. And I truly believe, of course, something small. But I truly, and to me, sometimes my problems are when my friends have problems or my family has problems. Of course, then I say, that's my problem too. I'm going to help you. But in general, I really, truly feel that if I was to take every area, spirituality and social life and relationships and career and my family, and rate it, I'm really, truly, genuinely happy in every area. But I think that is due to being totally conscious all the time, saying, how am I living my life? Who am I spending time with? Who am I choosing to do business with? Who am I partnering up with? What am I doing? You know, am I having bad habits or good habits? Really just consciously always being aware and checking in. And the nice thing is if you get in the habit of doing that, you don't really have to anymore. It becomes like a natural thing that you just don't attract those things. You don't attract negativity anymore. And just years of working on myself, and I think just making that conscious choice, like I am going to make sure that my life is completely happy. And so, because I really do walk the walk and talk the talk, and of course I'm human and I have bad days and I get in a bad mood once in a while, but in general, I feel extraordinarily happy in every area. And so I genuinely want other people to too, and that's why I wrote the book. So.
You're just so eager to get rid of that microphone. That's not going to happen. So if you had to pick one thing out of the book that you thought that everybody that's sitting out here could take from it, the one thing that you just had to say, this is the, out of all the things that I've written, this is the one thing that I really want for them to take from it. And this is the one tip that they would use to do that. What would that be?
I have a favorite affirmation that I made up that it's kind of funny. It says, snails, turtles, and clams have shells and humans do not. So take off your shell and have the nerve to be yourself. And it's true. I think the biggest tip is just practice letting your true self out and being yourself. If you catch yourself worrying when you're going to go somewhere like, what is this person going to think? Or should I be this way here and this way here? Stop yourself and say, you know what? I'm just going to be myself. I'm just going to let myself out. And maybe there's always going to be that 40 to 60% that doesn't like it. But the right people are going to like it, and you're going to feel better, and you're going to be happier. And people are going to like you more. People love vulnerability. People love you just letting your true self out and being who you are. Mm-hmm. And so that's my biggest advice in the book, is just be yourself. And there's a lot of tips in there on how to get that out more.
Very good. You're free to give it away. Okay. I love the title of your book.
Thank you.
And I have to know, how did you come up with it?
Well.
Oh, and I love the cover of it. I'm sure everybody's seen the cover, right? Is it amazing or what? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Unfortunately, my graphic designer wasn't able to be here tonight, but she's featured in some of the stories inside when I talk about health and nutrition, and when I went through a weight loss, and she got me back into shape and getting sexy. So she's a graphic designer and physical fitness expert, and she had designed the cover, and the name went, kind of around and around. It was first Health, Beauty, and Sex Appeal. I talked about health, beauty, and sex appeal. And then it was Health, Beauty, and Sex Appeal, the Real Woman's Guide. So I just wanted to really appeal to every woman. And then it went back and forth, and Kim and I talked, and we talked about being sexy and fabulous. And so then it was sexy, fit, and fabulous. And then I had to add on that at any age, but then I still knew that there was something. There was something like missing or something. And I knew for some reason that Amy was going to solve it. And since she's just a brilliant designer, she sent me the cover with sexy, fit, and fab at any age. And I knew that Amy was going to solve it. And it was just more fun. But then I added also my subtitle, which to me was very, very important. And it's Say Yes to Your Natural Beauty, being funny, being funny, healthy, sexy, and inspired. So although it's so fun to be sexy, fit, and fab, there's more to it. There's your natural beauty, your personality, being inspired.
One thing I had when we were talking on the phone before we got to all of this that I wanted to cover with you on.
Okay.
The one thing that I love is when we were talking about it, because for those of you and I shared a little bit about, shortly after my daughter and I were living in the car and gotten into Arbonne.
Yes.
And the one thing that she addresses and that we had talked about was, there's so many dynamics of being beautiful, which by the way, everything in here is just so amazing. Anyway, I look around and it's like a prerequisite to be in this room. You've got to be beautiful, apparently. So I guess that's a good thing. But we had talked about that, and you see people all the time, and you can put as much makeup on, do the right dress, do the right this, do the right that, and if you're not fixing what's in here, something's missing. And that's one thing that I took away from your book that I was reading. That's one thing I took away from it, is we share that same belief system, that you've also got to fix what's in here. You've got to identify what that is. And, you know, you've got to start from every aspect. You've got to start from the woman within, or the man. You've got to start with the person within and find out, what is it? You know, why do you feel, and because for some, even at times, I'm sure for all of us, you know, we've gone through insecurities. At some point, we've all been teenagers.
All of us.
So,
I've
been through it. And you and I talked about that. That's why you're so funny.
I would like to talk about it, because then we feel like, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one that thinks that my arms don't look good in pictures, or that, you know, I need Botox, or, you know, right? I wouldn't think these different things, but we think that I'm the only one that thinks this. I'm gonna be like a freak if I say it out loud. And, you know, we got to know each other in a quick conversation, and I say things out loud. And I like that. It's a little bit inappropriate. No. And, you know, my girlfriends will attest to that. But then they go,
it's not inappropriate, because you're being you and you're funny.
Say, oh, I could do that stuff too. And it's like, well, the funny thing that I do is, you know, or you know, how I really feel. And then when we go, oh, women just feel that way. And then it's like, big deal then. Who cares? Then you don't have to be so self-conscious. And then you realize there's so much more to it.
That is true.
Yep.
And that's what you, now, if you were to say, this is my favorite tip, what would you say it would be?
My favorite tip is my first one. Danielle sees me looking at her. Because she knows that she's part of what inspired this first tip.
Oh, I gotta hear this one.
Yeah, but it's one of, you know, there's the 8 essences in my book, and that was the other thing that Amy, the graphic designer, she read it, and she said, it's gotta be sexy, it's gotta be fun. She said, but your 8 essences, she said, that has to be on the front somewhere. She said, because it's not just sexy. So I'll just say real quickly, the 8 essences are spirit, nutrition, health, exercise, education, personality, following your passions, grooming, and sex appeal. And so I had to start off with the book with the most important part. And a few years ago, you know, we all go through different things in life, and then we come full circle. And it was just, I was going through so many different things. And Danielle said, I have this book for you. You have to read it. And I'm giving it to all of my friends. So she was another one of those. And she said, it's Joel Osteen's It's Your Time. She said, it's your time. And I read it, and it was exactly what you were saying. Once you start practicing gratitude, your life is going to change, and it's going to change in an amazing way. So Danielle inspired this spirit in me, and that's my biggest tip. And
you're so alive.
Chapter.
I have to say that. Isn't she so alive? I love it. It's beautiful.
And you know, and I've got to say too, with, you know, and everybody sees it a different way. It's like, ooh, you write a sex appeal book. So a lot of times I'll say, oh, my book's about health and beauty, because sometimes they get different notions. And then I was a little bit self-conscious with this sex appeal book, and then at first I changed it to spirit. I just thought that sounded stronger, but it was spirituality, and I thought, how are people going to take this? That they're trying to figure out how to be sexy. They want these sex appeal tips, and okay, you need to practice gratitude. You need to be in touch with your spirit first.
Yeah, that is so true. Very good. And it is, it's a very, for any of you who haven't read it, it's definitely a must read. I read it, it's great.
Yes.
It's incredible. You do a great job.
Thank you.
So is there anything special that you feel like you want to share with the audience?
Well, I do want to. And it happened like through the course of, in our mastermind group, and from Claudia, and being involved with Kim, and be involved in Kim's book. So immediately after Kim and I met, she said, you know, I know that you're a writer, you know, I'm a writer in the beauty industry. And she said, will you edit my book? Of course I will. So it's editing Kim's book, and we were getting all ready. And then through it, I was working on my own book. And then the time was come that, okay, our books are just about ready. And I said, well, I'm just publishing my own. You know, I did a children's book 6-7 years ago, and I already have my ISBN numbers. I already know how to do it. I'll have to do some more research, but I'm publishing it. And so just publish. Okay, so we had our plan. And so then Kim and I talked, and I said, well, you know, I don't want my old publishing name, but it's got to be Get Branded, and we said Get Branded Press. And then I said, well, I'm publishing me, and I'm helping you. Why don't I just publish you? So she said yes, and Kim did a lot of the promoting for everything, and so I published both of us, I edited both of us, worked out the whole interior design for us, our layouts, our headlines and everything, and it was awesome. And throughout this process, a lot of people knew what we were working on, and everyone said, well, I want to write a book. I was meeting a lot of, you know, experts in their fields or speakers, and they're like, I need to write a book, but I'm not sure what to do. And it just, this dream in me, I was just, you know, just like in beauty. I just want to help people, and I want their natural beauty to come out, and I want everyone's perfect self-expression to come out. And Kim and I had talked about this when we started to create a plan, and I said, well, what I want to do, you know, our books are so important, that needs to happen first, and then come June, I'm going to start teaching writing classes, so writing workshops, and so that will be part of Get Branded, but that will be Get Branded Right.
Oh, well,
W-R-I-T.
It's interesting. How many of you have written a book? And how many of you, if you could and it was just like pretty easy, would love to write a book? So lots of people still ready to do it out there. That's cool. It's cool, interesting.
Yeah, so to me it's so much fun, and if people want to know what do I offer, so you know, I offer ghostwriting, editing, headlines, inside layout, and then I'll also be teaching how to write a book and how to outline, and then also how to publish. So while I publish mine and Kim's books, you know, some people start to get up, but I'm not publishing other authors at this time. I'm not set up that way, but I am set up to do workshops and show them how they can do it themselves and hold their hand along the way while they get published.
I like to call that you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. But now I have one more question.
Yes.
I'm going to hold on to that for a while. If you had to say, this was my aha moment or my pivotal point, or this is when someone turned on that breaker switch inside of me, what would that have been? What was it? What was that thing, that one thing that turned your light on?
Thanks a lot. Are you just going to make all of us cry? Well, at first I was thinking, you know, I didn't know if you were talking about like a moment in the last year, the last 2 years, then I kind of got where you're going out with that and what you had said. And I think that part of also where I've come with this journey, what I was just talking about with Get Branded Press, Get Branded Right, and what I do is I grew up in a really large family. And I was the 9th of 10. Irish Catholic, and people that hear Irish Catholic, and if you are, you know what that means. You know that your dad worked 60, 70 hours a week, you know that your mom stayed at home, if she could, and you went to Catholic school, and you had your school uniform, and your life was hand-me-downs. You didn't exactly know that at the time, you kind of got excited, you got to wear the big sister's outfits. But throughout this, my mom just always inspired my creativity. And I kind of think that, you know, a few years ago it occurred to me, I probably didn't draw that great, and my stories might not have been that wonderful when I was 5 and 3, but my mom told me they were, and she said, go write 5 more. And I made a mistake on this picture. That's okay, you can fix it, draw another one. And so I did, so I kind of think, you know, I kind of think she wanted to get me out of her hair. There were all these things.
Well, I think it came out to me.
in a nice way. And so I always had confidence in my writing, in my artistic abilities, in, you know, beauty and acting and speaking and all of this. And once again, coming from that big of a family, you kind of know a lot of things are hand-me-downs. And I was raised on, you know, and my mom, she had all these kids. And when she was 49, then she went and started with Avon, and she kind of had her own estate, and she finally got a driver's license. But I kind of looked and I just saw that this woman, all she did was raise all these kids, and a lot of them were ungrateful. And there's all types. There's all types in this family. But I didn't want that. I didn't want that for me. And she always said, you know, do it. You should do it. You should go do cheerleading. Go do softball. Go do theater. Go do pageants. Go do acting. Go do art. Go do write. Go do beauty. So I did, and I did all of them. And there's always another thing was you kind of have to figure out how to do it though. You know, we don't really have the money, so if I was a paper route, or I went door to door and I painted rocks and I sold them to my neighbors. But I learned at an early age that I could figure out how to do these things. And we were talking to Chris Widener last night, and I was telling him, you know, this is such an amazing evening tonight. We have a red carpet event, and everything that what we did with our publishing, I did it on no budget. It was just a dream and faith.
See, and that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. You're showing up for your dreams just by being here. You're going to go after them.
You know what's how it's going to happen? And one friend asked me in November, and I said, well, I'm going to publish Gemini, you know, it's get rented press, and in March, he said, how are you going to do that? And I said, I'm going to study it, it's just going to happen. And
80% is the why?
We just did it.
20% is the mechanics.
Yes. So all of you, please have the confidence to whatever that little dream is, or if you're not sure, find out what it is and just know that you can do it. And it might not always be on schedule. It might not be exactly what you thought it was going to be, but it's going to be amazing.
You're awesome.
I'm really proud of her too. And I remember sitting at it was a voting night day. I was sitting at the fire station waiting to go in to vote.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Stand up for a second, please.
Beautiful.
Is this woman beautiful?
And we're waiting to go in to vote, and we're discussing the title of the book. They were going over and over, and I almost forgot to go vote. I almost pulled my car out and almost went home. Anyway, it was exciting to watch her on her journey, and I'm very proud of it. So, it's amazing.
So my question is, because when I first heard the title, because when you called, I had my emails get so lost, as we were talking about before. They get because they get so many of them, they just get kind of lost in the shuffle, and I have to literally like type in names if I know that I'm expecting an email from somebody. It's like, okay, there it is. And so I didn't know. And when you and I were talking on the phone, you said, oh yeah, the title of my book is, you know, From Dead to Stead. I was like, wow, that's a recent title. That's a pretty cool title. How'd you come up with that? So, how'd you come up with that?
Well, actually, it's been a pretty exciting journey, and I imagine most of the women in here would have loved to have been on that journey with me and across the United States. So, and I'm doing it again, who wants to go with me? Actually, I've been in this arena for many, many years, actually almost 4 decades. And I actually even taught it in high school. I was in industry and I took this whole professional and personal growth and development into the high school when I was teaching marketing. And I just saw the benefit that people had when they began to believe in themselves. But most of my audience was more women. But then a man was interviewing me and he said, oh, you need to write a book. And I said, oh, I could do that. I have a whole course for women. And he said, oh, no, you need to write a book for the men. And I said, okay. And I was just sharing with somebody earlier tonight about, I learned so much about the power of saying yes when it's in line with your purpose. And I've always known my purpose. I've known it since I was young. Is that my purpose is to inspire others to reach for their best. And I get very moved. That's what makes my life juicy every day. It's because I know every day something's going to happen that is going to come back to me that I'm going to hear the difference that something that's been said made in somebody's life. So even teaching high school, I know that seems like that was probably a hard job. think about the opportunity to inspire somebody every day. I also, my husband of almost 52 years is here with me. That's made my journey very exciting and very powerful because I've known I've had somebody right there supporting me the whole way and being my great cheerleader. And I believe that it's important that somebody's in your life that is your cheerleader. And when you and I talked, we talked about balcony people. And I have balcony people in my life, and we all do. You do too. Somebody that sees something in you that you don't see in yourself. And that's what I want to be for other people, is that balcony person.
Choice. It's not something out there that's going to determine. As long as that's your thinking, that it's something out there, then you'll never succeed. Because you'll always have the excuse. Now, do some people start out behind the 8 ball? Absolutely. I started out behind the 8 ball. Do some people start out with a head start? Absolutely. If your last name is Kennedy, you get started with a head start, right? But that doesn't guarantee anything. Look at half of those morons. Seriously, you get 3/4, 2/3, 3/4, 90%. I mean, look at them, really. The fact that you're born into a wealthy family and you get Harvard educated and all that stuff does not guarantee that your life is going to end up a complete, total mess. The reverse is also true. Just because you end up, start out poor and broke and from families that aren't necessarily the greatest and you didn't go to some Ivy League school doesn't mean that your life can't end up being excellent. Because it doesn't have to do with society around you. It doesn't have to do with somebody else. It doesn't have to do with your parents. Everything has to do with your choice. That's the first and foremost thing, is you have to own the responsibility. Now, I tweeted out today, I'm always trying to tweet these ideas out. I have 119,000 followers on my Twitter account. And I tweeted out today, the bad news is that your life is the sum of all the choices you've made up until now. That's the bad news. Because wherever you are right now, it's your responsibility. Well, you don't know my parents. Yes, I do. I know your parents. You don't know my spouse. I don't know your spouse, but it doesn't matter. You don't know the town I live in. You don't know my boss. Doesn't matter. Everybody has problems. And you are the person who has to make the decision. You're like, well, I don't make enough money. Quit your job. I can't quit my job. Really? You're a victim. You have to keep working for that person. See, as long as we won't take responsibility for the fact that we've made the choices to be living where we're living, we're going to continue to live right where we're living. So if we look at life as sort of a linear thing, this is the beginning and that's the end, and you're moving along, if we'll come to the point where wherever we are right now, for better or for worse, some of you are financially secure, others of you don't have 2 nickels to rub together. Some of you are in great marriages, some of you are in bad marriages. We're all in different places, but the fact is that wherever we are right now is because we've chosen to be there. But the great news is that if that's true, if what I just said is true, that you are living tonight the sum of all the choices you've made now, for better, for worse, then it's also true, and this is the good news, it's also true that in order to get to where you want to go, all you have to do is make different choices. You can make different choices. You're not a victim. I think it was called, what was it called? Nectars. Nectars. You had Nectars? We had Nectars. That was actually pretty good. But that, these simple choices, right? You can eat the junky stuff or you can eat the good stuff. You can talk nicely to your spouse, you can talk poorly to your spouse. It all just creates the end results. So what are the choices that you're making? What are the choices that you've made up until now? And for better or for worse, what have you come up with? And then from here, what kind of choices are you going to make? The second thing that I want to share with you, once you come to that, this is the most powerful moment in your life. When you accept the responsibility that the reason your life isn't what you want it to be is because you've chosen for it to be there, it's the most empowering moment in your life because you take all the power of choice into your hands and now you can actually change it. If you decide that you're a victim back here, then you're just going to be a victim through here. But if you accept that you've made the choices through here, then you get to make different choices from here on out. The second thing that I want to share with you tonight, when I'm thinking about successful people, somebody asked me a few days ago, they said, what's the one piece of advice you find yourself giving more often than not to other people in your speeches and books and things like that? And I started thinking, what is it that I find myself saying more often than not? And it came pretty quickly. It's simply this. The difference between the successful and the unsuccessful is not the absence of obstacles, but the presence of perseverance. The difference between the successful and the unsuccessful is not the absence of obstacles, but the presence of perseverance. Everybody has problems. You know, we look at some of these rich folks and we say, oh yeah, wouldn't it be nice? Donald Trump has more problems by 7 a.m. every morning than you're going to have in 2013. It's true. People who are rich, their wives leave them, their children die, they get sick. I mean, it's life. It's called life. We live in this thing called life. Jesus actually said, one of my favorite quotes, he said, in this life you'll have, anybody remember what he said? In this life you'll have trouble. Okay, if he said it, that's good enough for me. Right? In this life you'll have trouble. We're all going to have obstacles. If you allow the obstacles to become the rationale for why you don't achieve, well, I would have liked to have been, better off, but, we had this problem and that problem. Well, I'd really like to have a better marriage, but, he won't pick his underwear up off the floor. There's all these things that we can make an excuse. But the reality is that successful people, they've had just as many tribulations as you have, they've had just as much trouble as you have, but they decided to stick it out. They decided to work harder, they decided to outlast the people who didn't succeed. So what trouble are you up against in your life? What trouble are you up against? Think about that. And is it conquerable? The absolute, unequivocal answer is yes, it's conquerable. You can conquer it. It's one of the things that I found in my life personally, and on my television show I interviewed all these successful people, billionaires and athletes and all these folks, is that they succeeded in spite of their obstacles. And you can too. They look them on, they take them on, they look at them, and they go over them. Other people, they say, it's too hard, I don't want to do it, I don't want to discipline myself. When you look at the greatest athletes, you look at people who maybe professional baseball players, they don't just walk to the plate one day and then just decide that they're going to, hit the ball over the fence, hit a 95-mile-an-hour fastball and hit it over the fence. It's thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of hitting the ball, of practice. Tiger Woods, greatest golfer in the world, interestingly enough, just parenthetically talking about mindset and stuff, did you guys notice he had one of his best rounds in the last few years, this last weekend? You know what happened the week before that? He got back together with his wife. He started going back with his wife. And, like he was the greatest until he had all these big problems. And then he was not so great for the last few years. And then he finally settled things. It looks like they're going to get back together. And I thought to myself, how amazing is that this huge mental thing has switched back, and it changes his ability to actually play golf again. But the fact is that one of the things you know about Tiger Woods is that after he golfs, after he plays his rounds, most of the golfers, they go off and they do what? They go to the 19th hole, they get a drink, they go hang out, they go back to wherever they're going to go out. Tiger Woods goes back to the driving range and hits hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of balls. That's why he's the best golfer in the world, best golfer of all time. Because he works harder at it than most of us. In spite of the obstacles, in spite of the difficulties, that's what successful people do. So I wanted to be here and to share this night. Kim invited me to come down, and I thought, okay, what are a couple thoughts that I can share with you? And I boiled it down to just really the nitty-gritty nuts and bolts that I find if most people would really just focus on these two things. You walk out that door tonight and you think, I want to live my dream life, I want to live in my dream home, I want to have my dream marriage, I want my children to grow up and be productive members. I want to have the life. You only get one life. At the end of your life, it's over. You don't get to cycle back and be 5 years old again, right? You can do this if you walk out this door, if you just think about these two things in the next couple weeks and start putting it into practice. Number one, you choose. There's nothing you're doing that you aren't either accepting, that you're not either passively accepting or purposefully doing. You're either accepting the way people treat you, or you're accepting the kind of money that you make, or you're purposely going out and doing it. Once you empower yourself by saying, I'm choosing, my life. You can begin to make different choices. The second thing is that no matter what difficulty you're going through, you can make it through it. There's not a single difficulty that people in this world go through that somebody else hasn't already made it through and gone on to be wildly successful. Brokenness, disease, hurt, betrayal, bankruptcy, doesn't matter. Anything. So as you're going through these troubles, I want you just to keep reminding yourself, I can outlast this problem. I can outlast this obstacle. Because I'm convinced that most of it is just outlasting the obstacle. Eventually, most obstacles go away. Just outlasting it. Staying at it, staying at it, staying at it, staying at it. Go over one more mountain, and you see that mountain, you just go over one more mountain. And eventually, you're going to start saying how many more mountains, but eventually you come over the last mountain, and then you're out on the plane, and away you go. But most people quit on the first mountain. So I wanted to be here, challenge you to think about that, celebrate with Kim and the other ladies who also got their books out. I don't want to take any more of your time. I appreciate you having me. Wait, what? Oh, yeah. I'll be here in the back. If you're interested, I put together a little package Kim asked me to bring down. It's 2 books, like 24 CDs, 2 books, 2 DVDs, and we've got a little flyer in the back there. If you're interested, it's right out the back door there in the corner. Can't put me in the corner, I feel so badly. I've been bad, so I'm in the corner. No, but I'd love to talk to you, love to meet you, and go enjoy the rest of your night. I think I'll turn it back to Kim, right? All right.
Thank you, Chris. And he is so humble. He was not going to sell anything. And I said, oh, it's your book launch, our book launch. And I said, are you crazy? These people need your material. And he is so humble that he wasn't going to say anything. And I was trying to feature your table, actually, but, it's all perception. It's all perception. But it's funny because we have him, we were blessed to have him at our mastermind event last night, and my husband and I bought his package, even though we have probably half of it, because we thought, well, right now I'm listening to The Art of Influence in my car, and Edwin's like, well, I want it. And so that way he has one and I have one, and we can give it to other people. And so it is such a blessing to give nice, motivational, inspirational material to other people. And so I love to be able to do that. Before we bring up the others and say our thank yous, I wanted to ask you guys, I really hope that you guys got motivated and inspired, and how many of you are more inspired to live an extraordinary life?